Okay, so we're gonna kind of continue this conversation about mindfulness of emotion. And again, I'm going to start off with a wonderful quote from a fabulous Buddhist teacher, Sharon Salzberg. Okay, she says, meditation is like going into an old attic room and turning on the light. In that light, we see everything, the beautiful treasures we're grateful to have unearthed, the dusty, neglected corners that inspire us to say, I better clean that up. The unfortunate relics of the past that we thought we had gotten rid of years ago. We acknowledge them all with an open, spacious, and loving awareness. So mindfulness has this sort of middle path, this navigation that we've been mentioning. I mentioned earlier before we had our sit, which was we're not in our heads analyzing it, or I love, it's always you have the fantasy of, your boss pisses you off or something and says, and you have this fantasy you play out in your head of these great things you're going to say to him in your mind that you maybe you say to him, but most of the time, they're like Oscar-winning performances that we play out in our brain, right? We're like, oh, that was, and we feel so good, and maybe we play it over and over, and we play it in our heads, and we feel so good about it, and we feel righteous. There's this, there's a reason why I'm feeling this way. I deserve to feel this way. I'm angry about this. I'm righteous. And then there's the other part that's like, oh, I don't want to deal with my boss at all. Oh God, I'm just not going to talk to him. I'm just gonna, whatever I'm feeling, I'm just gonna put it to the side right now. And I can't talk about it. I'm just gonna bottle it up. I'm gonna shove it down. And I'm not going to deal with it. And sometimes that can be appropriate in your workplace because you can, if you lose it, maybe you lose your job, and we all have to navigate that. But what I'm getting at really is this mindfulness as a middle path, which is saying, I can feel what I'm feeling, because I'm a human being, and this is part of the human experience. And let's not overanalyze this and play it over and over, and let's not shove it down. Okay? There is a third choice, and that choice is really to experience what we're experiencing, not grabbing onto it like going down the rabbit hole and start going into stories and dramas and all sorts of things, but experiencing it, really experiencing it in our bodies, allowing it just to be as it is. What we will notice if we sit with it and experience it over time, whether it goes away or it doesn't go away right away, it changes. It changes. You're not going to have the same anger that you might have had at your boss, right? You go home, you ride the train, you take a walk. That dissipates. You sit with it. If you sit at the end of the day after that work day, you check in, you're going to notice a different quality of that feeling. And maybe that feeling, you can't even sense it in your body anymore. So we have to give ourselves that opportunity, and that opportunity presents itself when we sit and do practice. And we give ourselves the space to do that for ourselves. Because ultimately, when we can bring that compassion and kindness about what the hard and difficult thing that we're experiencing in that moment, because it's really affecting us, right? You know, you have an interaction with somebody, they might walk away fine. You're sitting with it, right? You're sitting and you're stewing and it's eating at you, you know? It's like that, I forget that saying about, you know, anger and poison and, you know, or grudges, or something like poison, you know, drinking poison. And so we are the ones that are having to experience that in our bodies, in our heads, in our emotional state. So having mindfulness as a way to navigate that and experience that and give ourselves that spaciousness to be with that feeling. Somebody might say, well, what in the world? Why would I want to sit with my anger or sit with my sadness or sit with... Well, you know, it's either sitting with it and experiencing it, or it's like that carnival game, the whack-a-mole. You hit one whack-a-mole and another one pops up. So, right, it's gonna just express itself in another way. So that care, kindness, and compassion, and as we really develop that kindness and compassion for ourselves, guess what? We're able to actually give that to the other people who in our lives, because we know we have the capacity to give ourselves that patience and that kindness and that compassion. So when we do get triggered, which we will, inevitably, we get it triggered every day. We have it, all these external experiences coming at us, besides our own internal experiences of giving ourselves a hard time, right? We have all of our others. So just paying attention to when we are noticing that we're trying to make ourselves not feel something or have an aversion to it. So we have this aversive behavior. You know, I'm not saying we're all perfect and we're all gonna, you know, somehow practice this every moment of every day, but it's a practice. And so when you notice yourself going to the refrigerator, or you notice yourself trying to make yourself feel better in some way to avoid feeling what you're feeling, just notice that and be with that. Don't judge yourself with it. But again, it's all a practice over time that we can not let our unconscious habits, our unconscious triggers that we've grown up with from our parents and our life experiences that have triggered us, that we don't have to automatically react the way we've always reacted. What we can do is awareness can give us spaciousness. It can give us a pause between that moment where we realize we're being triggered, if we can actually catch that, and the way we respond in that moment. It gives us a freedom to choose. where before, if we don't notice it, we're often run by our habit energies, this is called in Buddhism. These kind of things we just do. It's like circuited that way. And when we actually have the ability to make that pause and notice that, we can actually literally rewire our brains. I mean, that's what the research is showing, that we can create new pathways when we have a different response, when mindfulness over time can create those pathways, this practice. So we don't have to be, Pavlov's dog, where we're just like, give us that trigger and we're going to respond that way, right? So I'm going to stop there talking about it, and